Huh?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cryptic Clues. I'm your host, Taylor.
You're
This is another one of our
listening to
encounter special
Cryptid
episodes.
Clues.
Our guest tonight comes from Mexico.
Featuring your
She basically
hosts,
had some interesting
Taylor
occurrences that
Field
took place in her
and
house when she was younger.
Ruben
But just before we get to
Olsen.
that, just some quick plugs. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca as our main website, CryptidClues@gmail.com. You can send us an email and say hi. Cryptid Clues on Twitter and Facebook, and you can also find us on Patreon, where you can get ad-free early episodes and some even exclusive episodes only available on the Patreon feed. So without further ado, here we go. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'm excited to have you go into your experience here. So by all means, whenever you feel comfortable, take us into your experience from the beginning.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Well, I'm going to start telling you my story. Well, everything started when we moved out, and I lived in Mexico City. Then we bought this house, and it was everything cool. We have moved out from this big city, then went to a small one, and everything was cool, right? Even the house, it didn't have anything weird on it, and everything was peaceful. I was sleeping in another room. I had this little room. Then my mother and my grandparents thought that it was better for me to have a bigger room and one with more privacy. So they started to build this room, and I was like, okay, it's going to be great. But then my family starts to have these big arguments, discussions that sometimes they were very violent, and just they used to say like pretty nasty things to each other, and that's how everything started to change. I started to notice that even the atmosphere felt heavier. And this is something that even one of my aunts, it was one time that she visited us, and she said something like, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird. And I was starting feeling that way too. Then this room is ready. I move out um, to this room. I start to feel really nervous around nighttime. I start hearing, whispering. I used to hear even like little scratches behind the walls, like some kind of animal was in there. I don't know, something really, really weird. To the point that I was afraid to to be there in the nighttime. Then everything starts to escalate a little bit more, and things got scarier and scarier. I remember that I was having nightmares, like really bad ones. Nightmares in which I feel that no, not I feel. I saw myself being like exorcised, like literally I was being exorcised, and uh, when I woke up from these nightmares, I felt absolutely terrified. I was like, what is happening to me? There is something demonic that it's chasing me. I don't know. Then I start having sleep. This sleeping paralysis is getting worse and worse. I have them every night. I swear to you, I have them every night. So I was so scared to sleep, so scared that I I even remember I was like 15, so I was starting dating, and I was so afraid of falling asleep than my this boyfriend that I had around this time. I was like, please, like, don't stop message me at this time of the night because I don't want to fall asleep. And so I fall asleep until I don't know 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and I have to woke up at 7 o'clock because I had school at the next day. But I didn't care because I was so scared, and I was like, well, what is happening to me? Maybe these negative things that it's happening with my family right now, maybe they are playing a big role in what is happening to me right now. But I let that happen, and yes, I felt terrified, but I was like, okay, this is going to go away at some point, right? And until one day I wake up, I go to the bathroom. I was about to turn off the lights, and I hear this laugh that I'm never going to forget about how clear I hear that voice and I hear that laugh. It was like a masculine voice, and I don't know, the voice was so clear that it felt like it was made by someone who was next to me. Like, yeah, nor in the other room, nor in the next room. No, someone like it was near to me, like that clear. I hear that loud, and it was horrible. And I remember I remember going back to sleep, and I was like, no way, I'm sleeping again. So at some point, I was like, I don't know, I'm like, again, I'm getting attacked by something demonic. I don't know. Um, Maybe that's why I'm having these nightmares almost every night. The the sleep paralysis. I don't know. Um, so yeah, it was pretty scary. That's pretty much it. But then my family starts experiencing. Well, they experience the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but they experience a scary thing too. So that's where we took a decision on what to do about this, and yeah, it's pretty much it.
So when in your story, you wrote you started to pray more and more, and that
Oh
helped
yeah,
put a
yeah,
stop to it.
yeah. Before my family experienced the things that well, not the same thing that I was experienced, but they experienced something different. Before that, I started praying more, and because I grew up being Catholic, and a traditional Mexican family, they teach you since you are a little girl that you should pray, so the devil is not doesn't come after you, and this whole thing about religion. So I started praying more. I was like, maybe this is going to help me, right? And yeah, I remember praying a lot, like crazy. And I felt like it was helping me at some point. Yeah, it didn't went away, but indeed it was helping me. I mean, It was not that often when the nightmares were happening more occasionally, not that frequently as before, and the sleep paralysis too. So yeah, I remember praying like crazy to this saint that is. I started this saint is called Loyola, and praying, and it did help me. It did help me a lot. And the things that I was experiencing were happening not that frequently, right? And yeah, not everything was perfect, no, but it did help me. But the thing is that at some point, even my family were like, well, something is happening, because I was like, I'm not going to tell them because I'm afraid of my mother or my grandparents to think that, I don't know, I'm being possessed, or I don't know, because they were very religious. And I never told them, right? And yeah, it was something really scary. I feel that the religion part play a big role too on this story, because frankly, now that I'm kind of like, I'm spiritual, but I'm not like religious like I used to be for some reason. Maybe because the things that happened to me, maybe I'm trying to stay away from those religious terms, right? God and the devil. And
It's kind of like what we talked about off cast, where if you, like most people, kind of close yourself off to those things, you don't notice or attract it necessarily.
exactly, exactly. Because when I was being very religious, it was like the more religious I was, the more attracted these forces. I don't know why. And not being religious, well, you just like we were talking about, you're kind of closed up to these type of things because you don't even believe in them, so they are not going to come after you, right? And yeah, I really do believe that.
So when you moved into the room, now did the fight start after it was finished or while it was being built?
While it was being built, yeah.
And did you ever notice anything, any objects that were brought home?
No, but I definitely, at some point, I remember this big argument that my mother and my grandmother had. I remember after this discussion took place, I went to the supermarket with my grandmother. My mother was left alone in this very room. I remember my aunt came to see how she was because she was affected by it. My mother is a person who is kind of unstable when it comes to arguments, fights. And I remember that my aunt told me this, well, told me and my grandmother. She said that she came into the room and saw my mom like kind of invoking like the devil, just because she wanted to make amends with my grandmother, because my grandmother was very upset because my mother was doing something that was was not okay to do, and she was not happy about it. So the arguments were kind of harsh. So my mother was so, I'm guessing that my mother was so desperate to have my grandmother happy again, or to have a good relationship with her mother, that she did that. And then well, that's the story that my aunt tells us, that she even saw my mom invoking the devil. And I think that was, I don't know. I don't want to say that it was because of my mom, but maybe she was being so desperate that she was invoking the devil. Maybe she was so mentally unstable at that point, emotionally unstable too, that she had to do that. And even before my aunt saw that, maybe, and now I'm not, now I'm just guessing, right? Because the thing my aunt said, but I'm guessing that maybe during these arguments, even before my aunt saw this, maybe even before that, my mother was invoking something. And that's why I was being chased by it, because I was the youngest one in the house. I was the one who was really afraid by that, obviously, because my age, right? And I remember being so terrified when my aunt told me that. And then my grandmother telling me again about it. It was something shocking because, well, she's my mother, right? And the things that were happening to me now started to make more sense, you know?
So you still live in the same house, right?
Yeah, I still live in the same house. I just don't sleep anymore in that room. It's the only thing. I never went back to sleep in that room.
Do you ever feel if you had to walk in there? I'm not saying do it. Don't walk in there. But do you ever feel like there's a still a presence, or maybe the atmosphere changes, or do you feel like everything has moved on?
I think that everything has moved on, just because the thing that happened afterwards, once my family experienced it too, things started to change. But I'm to this day, I'm now 20. I'm almost 26, and even to this day, I'm afraid to sleep in there. Like, no way I'm going to sleep in there anymore. My mom sleeps in there right now. But the thing is that I think that everything took another turn just when my family experienced things too. So, yeah.
What type of noises were you hearing behind the walls? Was it just like the scratch noises?
It was scratches, and it was something like small noises, scratching, like tapping, you know, those type of noises.
On the night that you heard the laughter, was there any other instances like that, or was that was the final moment that made you go and start praying a lot more?
That was the main reason that I started praying a lot more. I was praying, yeah, but that one time was like, no, I need to start praying like every morning, and every morning I was doing that. And when I was not praying, I was like, I just wanted to some distraction. I used to hang out with my boyfriend all the time, and to stop thinking about this, because I was seriously thinking that I was being chased by this.
You also mentioned that the windows and doors started shaking.
Yeah, and this is the when the things got worse. When my family took some final decision on what to do with this, now that they experience, right? And I remember this was like the last time, right? I remember being asleep. I was sleeping. Right now, I was sleeping in the other room. I moved out from this room. I felt a lot safe in this room. The sleep paralysis was still happening, but not that frequently. So I was feeling more peaceful. I was feeling more relaxed. But then I was trying to sleep. I remember, And then I wake up and I hear these noises. I'm hearing the windows from the living room and the dining room being being shaken, and I remember that sound. And even the doors, just the principal door and the back door, were shaking. I remember that noise, and you know, here in Mexico, I'm used to hear that because when there is an earthquake, the kind of noise that you hear. But I was like, it's not an earthquake because my bed is not shaking, nor I feel like dizzy or no. So I'm hearing my mother and my grandma, just because I think that they were in the living room at that point. I was sleeping, but they were watching a movie, I think. But I was trying to sleep because, well, I had to go to school the next day. So I remember them being like, well, what is happening? There is an earthquake or what's happening? But then I hear my mom calling me, and she was like, "Come here." So I went downstairs with them, and they were really scared. And they say, "Well, there's no earthquake. No one else was on the street because I think that they even went out to the streets to see if someone has gone out from their houses, and there was no one outside. People in Mexico, like, they just evacuate their houses when there is an earthquake, right? Or in many places, I don't know. But yeah, there was like anyone around the street. So yeah. And then when I'm downstairs with them, they're like, no, there's no earthquake. It was something that it was just happening in here, and it was something that it was so so scary that you don't even know. I remember that my mom and my grandmother were like, you know what, we need to start praying right now because it felt like it was some evil attack to us. That's why even the whole house felt like shaking and felt like trembling, like, yeah, that's sensation. And I even hear from I even hear all of this, and I was upstairs. So imagine that. We start praying, we even hold hands that time, and that was something that we didn't tend to do. But at that time, we hold hands, we start praying, we start invoking God, and just the typical prayers, like Our Father, right? So we start repeating this, we hold hands. Next thing I know, they are calling a priest. I don't know the next day, but I remember that he came right after, and he poured some holy water. He prayed some special prayers, right? Started praying like specific for the evil forces to away from your house. And yeah, the whole in every room.
And things just started to get better, which I'm really happy that they did.
Yeah, from there it started to change. The atmosphere was just a lot lighter than before, and yeah, the discussions were not as frequent as before. Everything changed from there. So I think that I don't know. I don't know if it's superstition, or I don't know what it was, but I really do think that the priest saying these specific prayers for the devil to make the devil to go away really helped.
Did the priest ever say that they felt like there was something there?
You know what? The priest, I remember that the priest was someone very quiet, someone very serious. So he didn't say anything. Just I remember that one time my aunt was like, the atmosphere, just like I told you some minutes before, that I remember quite well. I remember that when she entered the house, she was like, you know what? Something feels heavy in this place, and it feels different when I'm entering my home. Just feels heavy. The whole atmosphere feels heavy. Yeah, negative, right?
Yeah.
I was scared to death. I was scared to sleep. I swear to you. I spent nights, I remember, like with no sleep at all. I remember.
It does make me wonder if it was something just moving through, or if it was perhaps it liked where it was, and it was trying to really put its foot down or really dig in, but your actions and your family's actions were able to stop it before it got any worse, which was good.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something right now that I really hope that people bear in mind. I think that when you are in a negative state of mind, or if you are struggling with something negative happening to your family or in your family, or you just open this door, or it's easier that these forces, I don't know, for your, or just trying to mess up with you. I really do believe that, because I was in such a vulnerable place that maybe was one of the reasons.
I think you're absolutely right. It weakens you down for creating more pain and suffering onto you.
Exactly. It's like they take advantage of these things. I remember being very depressed because, well, my family was having these big arguments, and no one seemed to like each other. And I don't know, so many things. Plus, I was a teenager, and I was dealing with some other things, and the fact of being religious too. I think that's that's something that you. I think that the more religious you are, the more you are open to this. Because you
Yeah.
know what? Now that I'm more on the spiritual side, nothing has happened to me.
That's that's a lot of where my family has kind of gone more onto like a spiritual, a neutral kind of position.
Yeah. Now I'm like, no, I'm not letting this happening again. So I'm more neutral about it. Just because the whole experience was so scary. At some point, I swear to you, I truly believe that I was being, I don't know, this negative force, demon. I don't know what it was, but I was feeling that I was, or that this thing was trying to possess me, because I was experiencing the same thing every day at sleeping, and the nightmares were the worst. I mean, why would you dream about these things, right? And yeah.
Well, that
So
is all the
yeah.
questions that I have. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Oh, well, I would like to know. I don't know what's your opinion on that.
Well, I mean, I do stand with a lot of the things that you said. I think that when you are experiencing depression or a crisis, a family trauma, or anything along those lines, that you will attract something. Something will see that and latch onto you and make it worse. It'll push people away. It'll make you feel like you're alone. And that's what they want. That's whatever these things are. That's exactly what they want, so they can get to you. There's certain things that you can identify that can help you realize perhaps what its intentions are. And a lot of the things you described, this entity did not sound good at all. It sounded like it wanted to get closer to you and cause more grief into your family. These things are
Yeah.
dangerous, and a lot of people don't know how to handle and address these things. But I think what you and your family did, having a priest and having that swift action, really was the smart thing to do and put a stop to this, because a lot of times people, they don't act quick enough. They feel alone, and they don't know where
Yeah.
to turn for help. And in North America, I don't think we really have a lot of help for these kinds of things.
Yeah, because well, people in here they are very religious, and maybe in North America people are just no, I don't believe in anything, and maybe when they experience something like this, it's going to be late for them to do something. I don't know, but the experience that I have was very real. That louder. Uh, I'm never going to forget it. Like, no, but and the whole thing was pretty terrifying. I mean, imagine yourself experiencing that every night. So yeah.
I couldn't imagine it, but I'm glad that you were able to come through it on top. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to like for this negative force to leave me alone and leave my family alone or this house alone, because otherwise I don't know what will happen. Because yeah, at some point I really believe that I was, I don't know, getting possessed or just being attacked by this force. And yeah, it's just scary. I'm never going to forget it. And yeah, there it happening like almost 10 years ago, and I'm never going to forget that love that I hear. Never. And I have never experienced something like that or hear anything like it before. So yeah.
It's hard to ever imagine, like, to forget something like that. Like, if you're exposed to it, it becomes almost a part of you, but it serves as a reminder that you overcame it, you beat it, and hopefully that can be spread to other people too that are feeling alone or experiencing something like this,
Yeah.
that they can beat these things.
Yeah, exactly. And for people to pay more attention to it and not being like that skeptical about things, like, no, these things really can happen. Even more when you are religious. I don't know why, but these forces, like, they get annoyed, right? About you being religious, or I don't know, you are more vulnerable because just like we were saying, when you don't believe in anything, well, you just put a wall for these things to not to happen to you. And yeah, but this that happened to me was I I was feeling it every day. That voice was something that I get. I'm never going to forget it. Plus, the only man that lived with me was my grandfather, and my grandfather was asleep already. The voice didn't came from another house, my neighbor or something. No, it was something that I hear like really close to me. So yeah, just inviting people to believe believe more in this, and if they are experiencing something like this, well, they should do something right away, because maybe it could be late when they decide to do something. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show. Thank you for telling us this experience, giving the insights to those questions as well. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Um, it was just something that I wanted to do just because I want for people to believe in this and to not to feel alone and to ask for help and yeah, if they are experiencing something like this. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And that's it for this episode of our Encounters Cryptid Clues. Again, if you want to reach out to us or you have a similar experience to this and you have any questions or just want to connect, send us an email, cryptidclues@gmail.com. But other than that, you can check us out on our website and social media channels. Thank you again for coming onto the show, and thank you all for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.